in MMA. PFL is more than a fight.
Catching up on any NFL game is easier than ever before.
Looking to the end zone for the win!
Oh my gosh, one of the great games you'll ever see.
The competition is back, and the UEFA Women's Champions League looks set to be bigger and better than ever before.
It's their time, a night to remember.
The following program is recommended for those 16 and over, as it contains sporting violence, possible bad language, and flashing imagery.
It's Mexico versus Cuba in Saudi Arabia for super middleweight supremacy.
Canelo Alvarez could leave this place as a two-time undisputed super middleweight champion.
This guy does not stop making history.
Voy a ir a comerme al Canelo, entonces.
He say he's gonna eat me. The only thing he's gonna eat is gonna eat this. Look, this.
Cubans got swag. They got boxing ability, power, and swag. He's gonna need more than that to beat Canelo.
2 years out of the ring, does Badu Jack still have what it takes to be the best? If Jaime Munguia doesn't get revenge against this guy, we might never see him in the ring again.
I will beat the shit out of you. That's it. Nobody want to fight you except me. You, man. You too.
¡Viva México, cabrones!
What a night it'll be in that city right there. You have eyes on Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, as Riyadh season continues with that fatal fury, City of the Wolves, Canelo Alvarez, 67th fight as he looks to become a two-time undisputed super middleweight champion of the world. I had no idea that is what Riyadh Boulevard looked like. Cannot wait to get there someday. They are there in the morning. We are here in Indianapolis, Indiana at 5:01 Eastern, and we can't thank you all enough for joining us as the opportunity to chit-chat about boxing continues for us. It is not just me. Obviously, there is a two-time WWE Hall of Famer. Get it right.
Let me get it out there.
Reality of Wrestling founder, ladies and gentlemen, Booker T is here. Booker, man. Canelo is fighting his 67th fight, looking to become the two-time undisputed super middleweight champion here. How do you feel about what's about to take place over there in Riyadh, and what do you expect out of this evening's card?
This has been a long time coming for Canelo Alvarez. This is history in the making. This is legacy in the making, and we're getting a chance to see it right here live and in living color. From his perspective, there in Riyadh, we're here, but we're definitely going to see history made.
We'll have some chatter with some folks that are in Riyadh. Eddie Hearn will join us in about 28 minutes or so. It was great catching up with him last night. That boy's got moxie. Large from Barstool will join us, who is tight with the Canelo camp in about 15 minutes or so. It's not just me and Booker on this particular evening. It is also the boys from the Toxic Table at Boston Connor and at Ty Schmidt, looking incredibly professional here to cover boxing. Ty, I know that you are a Sweet Science massive fan. The fact that we get a chance to kick off this entire evening is obviously a big deal. Thanks for bringing out the sport coat, pal.
Absolutely, I had to. Like you said, I absolutely love the Sweet Science. Listen, I wasn't going to show up looking like a slob tonight.
Where'd you get that damn jacket?
Whoa, that is a tailor-made jacket right there, Book.
You don't find a burgundy, not burgundy, you don't find a dark purple jacket everywhere. I know that I'm the only man, maybe one of the only men in the world wearing this jacket tonight.
It's a big night. And if you look right next to him there, Book, I don't know if you got a chance to respect it, the tuxedo T-shirt, this is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, and you might say it's a T-shirt, but this is a full-blown tuxedo. You know, when I put this thing on, it might look like a shirt to you, but it feels like a tuxedo to me, and it makes sense for Canelo's 67th fight here.
I think you guys look very professional, as we are trying to be, obviously. And us getting a chance to chit-chat on this same evening is obviously an honor. And with last night, which we'll revisit later today, I mean, this is really cool to get a chance to experience all of this. One half of the Hammer, Don Cowboys AP Tone is here. We'll be looking into some props for us to make some money. But let's talk about the reason that we're here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Canelo versus Scull. Ladies and gentlemen, it's for Canelo to become a 2-time undisputed super middleweight champion. Now, we have a tail of the tape here, obviously. In 34 years of age, he has 66 fights under his belt. I have no idea how Canelo has maintained that type of work ethic and that type of greatness. Obviously, he has 2 losses there. One of his losses, he went up in weight. One of them, he went down. There's a whole situation. Considered greatest of all time. Taking on Scull. What do we know about what this fight should be like here, Book, as you look at the tail of the tape?
Look at Canelo Alvarez. The first thing I do is I circle that top number right there, 34 years old. For him to have amassed 66 wins at that age is incredible. But it tells me that his career has been orchestrated from a young boy all the way to this point right now to create, like I say, a legacy for Canelo Alvarez like no other boxer in the history of the game.
Yeah, and if you look at the height there, that has been a topic of conversation. Obviously, Canelo's had to address it. Scull is 5'11 and a half. Obviously, Canelo 5'7 and a half. Whenever they were doing their stare down and weigh down and everything, there's an obvious a little bit of an advantage there for Scull. I don't think Canelo's very worried about it. I think he has obviously dealt with this in previous fights. But Scull does have a little bit of a reach and a little bit of a height advantage. Book, what do you think that brings to the table?
Scull's definitely going to have to fight the best fight that he's ever fought in his life to go out here and win against Canelo Alvarez. Because you got to think about Canelo Alvarez. You think about those 66 wins, but you don't think about the amateur career. I mean, the amateur career is vast as well. So he's seen everything you could possibly see in the boxing game. So I don't think he's going to be surprised by anything that Scull throw at him.
Canelo Alvarez is the WBA, WBO, and WBC super middleweight champion. He was the IBF champion, which obviously he relinquished that title. William Scull won that. So for tonight, he will be trying to earn all 4 super middleweight titles. And then obviously the Terrence Crawford fight is on the horizon if Canelo is able to get a win. Eddie Hearn talked about it yesterday. Terrence Crawford talked about it yesterday. I believe Turkey has talked about it. The boxing world has talked about how big it could be. But Canelo's got to handle his business today, Ty Schmidt.
Yeah, without a doubt. And especially, after last night, I'm sure there were a lot of people who, didn't have Rolly Romero winning that fight. This is boxing. Yes. Anything could happen. So, yeah, we're all looking towards that, Canelo, Terrence Crawford matchup, but he does need to take care of business tonight.
Yeah, the Terrence Crawford fight could be huge, especially with what they're talking about, where they're talking about. Canelo has fought in front of the largest U.S. audience for boxing in the history down in Dallas. I think they're looking to make that thing even bigger with Terrence Crawford's name alongside of it, but you got to be able to get a win. Ryan Garcia was not able to do that last night. Will old Canelo be able to get the job done tonight? He's not the only one fighting this evening. We have a heavyweight battle.
Hell yeah.
Jagba, Bakoli. These guys are potentially going to be throwing some meat. Shucky, ducky, quack, quack, Booker T. We got big dudes throwing bombs tonight.
Oh, man, no bread, no water, just meat. Oh, yeah, man. It's going to be good, man, because both of these guys, they're giants, man. Standing at 6 foot, 6 inches tall, both of these guys. But Bakoli, he's coming in at right at 300 pounds, maybe over 300 pounds. Right now, but Efe Jagba, this dude, man, he's incredible. He's a next level talent. We're going to see exactly what these two are made of because I think for both of them, this is the biggest fight of both of these guys' careers.
30 total knockouts between the two, about mid-40, 45 fights or whatever between the two, 30 of them ending in knockouts.
Yeah.
So we assume we're going to be throwing some heavy hands, Boston Connor.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 300 pounds behind a right or left hook, I assume that connection would probably put someone down, but both these guys being 6'6", it feels like in massive boxing matches before, when we're talking about a Tyson Fury and a Wilder, like the heavyweights are damn near one of the best fights of the night, and for this not even to be the main event is incredible.
Or the co-main event, which is actually a rematch, and this one's going to be a massive, massive fight. We got Saras taking on Munguia, and obviously this is the second time they battled in December as Saras got a massive win down there in Tijuana, Mexico. And obviously they had a great fight. Munguia did great. Saras ends up getting the dub with shots like that right on the button. Munguia was able to withstand, get back up, answer the bell, but in the end, in the decision, Saras gets the win. Co-main event tonight is a rematch. What does that mean for you, Book, after watching the first time they fought?
I'm going to tell you right now, Jaime Munguia did not see himself looking up at the lights in Tijuana right in his backyard, man, because, no, he was having a hell of a fight. He dropped Saras earlier in that fight. He seemed like he was on his way to victory, and then all of a sudden seemed like he went to sleep for a second. Big right hand over the top, boom, and he could not get up for the 10 count. The referee just had to have the wherewithal, understanding, know-how to stop it. It was a beautiful, beautiful fight. But tonight, it's about redemption. I think it's about redemption. Can Jaime Munguia come back? Was it a slippage on the banana peel? Was it a flash in the pan here today and gone tomorrow? We're going to find out tonight.
We certainly are. And Riyadh has some bangers in store. Munguia's only got 2 losses out of his 46 fights. One of them comes to Canelo, and the other is Saras. That happened in December. So you're talking about a lot of wins, and then obviously Saras undefeated. And whenever you think about the rest of the card, there's 5 other fights. Obviously, the prelims will be kicking off as soon as we wrap up here. And then the main card, Leon Guerrero, Verde, Polina, and then Badu Jack takes on Mcafee. What are you thinking about the rest of the card here, Book, as you look at it?
I mean, Badu Jack, of course, he's the gatekeeper. Been off for 2 years, but he's a guy that still got a lot left in the tank. Verde, he's a kid who's, his first fight stepping inside the squared circle. We're going to see exactly what this kid is all about. His amateur career was vast. It was stellar. We're going to see exactly what happens here in the pros. And I tell you, let's get ready. Let's get ready to do it. Do it like it's supposed to be done. Make them bow down. Make them pay my son. Make them say daddy, Otto. Let's get this thing.
Yeah, you might as well make him say daddy. And, speaking of daddy, Mcafee was not supposed to take this fight against Badu. He picked this up 3 weeks ago because of a torn bicep, so short notice, willing to step in there. And you get a legend in Badu Jack, who's the WBC Cruiserweight champion.
Yes.
And I don't know how that bodes well stepping in, but I got massive respect for anybody that will take a fight.
Time off is your worst enemy. That's what they say. And we're going to see exactly what Badu Jack is made. Is it going to be a lot of ring rust? We're going to find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now is from the Barstool Sports Network. He used to talk about finances in boxing. Now he talks about boxing and NASCAR and plenty of other things. A massive brain. That's why they call him Large, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Large.
How are you, boss?
Very good. How you doing, man?
Good. It was great seeing you last night. It was great chatting with you. Your outfit was absolutely phenomenal. You looked incredible. That Times Square event was insane. It feels like this Fatal Fury City of the Wolves run from London, then to Times Square. Now we got Riyadh season in Riyadh. It's been a great time for boxing. Do you agree, Large?
I think that this is probably the best that boxing's had it in the past 25 years. I mean, boxing's been peaks and valleys, Pat. I started watching it. I'm very old. 53 years old. So I started watching it during the Four Kings. So I, Duran and Leonard and Hagler and Hearns. And a lot of times the kids nowadays, that's tar heroin. What the kids have now is kind of that dirtweed shit. So by going and having these super fights, I think we can get more people back into the sport. And that's good for me because it's by far my favorite sport in the world.
Yeah, talk about smoking that bush, I guess. That is kind of like Turkey's big initiative, though. We had a chance to chit-chat with Dana, Turkey, and also Nick Khan. The day was kind of announced on what their plans are for boxing, and they're like, we need the good fighters to fight the good fighters. Like, that is what we need. And tonight, we got the greatest. We got Canelo fighting yet again. Obviously, you're a man that knows Canelo very well. The Terrence Crawford fight is looming. How do you think Canelo handles this evening? What do you think his mindset is?
So I spoke to him about 3 weeks ago. He was in a Radio City Music Hall. I got to sit down with him. It was right after he did that little, shell trick with talking to Jake Paul, maybe then forcing, Turkey's hand a little bit. And I think he's ready for this fight. He's never come into any fight where he's not ready. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be an overly competitive fight, but it's one that's necessary to set the table for Crawford, to put all the belts on the table, because they're fighting for the belt that Canelo unfortunately had to give up when he didn't fight his mandatory. Scull picked this up as a vacant belt, and Scull is the type of guy that nobody knows anything about. So if you want to look at the positives with that, perhaps he can pull off an upset. He's a big man, 6 feet tall, or around 6 feet tall. So, puncher's chance, but I don't know how competitive it's going to be because it could turn into one of those things where Canelo's just punching arms for 12 rounds and it goes the distance. You know what I mean? Because we were looking for that knockout last night, Pat, right? Yes. I mean, we were begging for that last night. The place was an architectural masterpiece. Them putting that in the middle of Times Square, but the vibe was off. The vibe was off maybe because we were fighting during the day or the fighters were just a little bit off, so we didn't really get to see the best of any of those guys, but we did get to see a huge upset with Ryan Garcia. maybe putting Canelo in the desert for the first time throws the vibe off with him, and maybe we get to see a big upset. I'm just trying to make a fight here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I appreciate you wanting to build up the suspense and saying, hey, we need to watch this. This isn't just going to be a cakewalk for Canelo. But as you look at their stare down, 5'11.5 versus 5'7.5, you mentioned it. Is that something Canelo has been used to throughout his entire career, or what?
And that's the problem, right? Like, so William Scull brings nothing to the table that Canelo hasn't seen before, because Canelo has fought plenty of 6-footers. Crusher Kovalev, Caleb Plant, he's fought a lot. Most of the guys that he's fought are bigger than him. Dimitri Bivol, which we won't mention because that's the loss. So William Scull doesn't show Canelo anything he hasn't seen before, but Canelo Alvarez shows William Scull everything he hasn't seen before. So it's one of those things where it seems like a mismatch on paper, but this fight is necessary. This fight is necessary to get Terence Crawford to step up and try to become the unified, undisputed super middleweight champion of the world when those guys clash in September. So puncher's chance, I'm going to be tuned in, obviously, because I've gone from Canelo fan to Canelo stan, and now I'm officially a simp since I had the tattoo put on, and I'm proud to be it, I think.
Yeah, we actually have that photo. It got sent over. We appreciate you doing that. And also, I believe from the text messages I shared with you, they also send him the tracksuits. You know, the team tracksuits. Yeah, so large part of the team. Yeah. Large part of the team. He's trained with them before. He's been punched by them. He's tatted up with the crew, and he gets the tracksuits. He's basically a member of the Alvarez family, which I can respect so much, which is why you're the perfect person to stop by. Now, Booker has a question for you, Lard.
No, I mean, it just seems, the wrong path to take, because I've been watching this boxing game a long time to do, and I go back to 1990, Douglas versus Tyson with Evander Holyfield waiting in the wings, waiting on that big shot, knowing exactly what's going to happen. And what happened? Mike Tyson went out there and got knocked out. Do you think it's a wise idea for Canelo to actually feel like he was just going to walk out and win this fight?
Oh, no, he's just going to roll the ball on the field.
Come on.
Yeah, so the thing is, but by the way, it's a fucking thrill talking to Booker.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, Lord, you should have said yesterday. I was having that all day. From Harlem, too. He was back in New York yesterday.
No, just saying, because
exactly.
I remember that.
Pat, you're okay, but Booker's the guy. Booker, the only thing I will say is that at 32 years old, Scull isn't young. And at 23-0, that's a very good record. I don't recognize most of the guys on his record, and I'm a boxing junkie. And 23-0 with 9 knockouts, he's not knocking out guys that I've never heard of, and he's now stepping into a guy that I consider probably, I don't know, in the top 3 pound for pound, maybe top 4 pound for pound. Canelo used to be number 1 with the bullet, but now I got Usyk, NUA, and probably Crawford ahead of him. So that's where it doesn't really scare me too much. He will be throwing downhill, like William Scull, just like every other tall opponent. I don't know why I'm shadow boxing a lot.
I like it. Fired up. You look good form, too.
I get kind of fired up with this thing. So he will be throwing downhill, as if I was fighting Mcafee. I'd be throwing downhill.
Whoa. I had my cowboy boots on yesterday. We were eye to eye. You are a large man. Big brain. Fit. He's kind of fit.
Nice.
Yeah, look, that's what I'm saying. He looked kind of fit in the fit that he had. And the shoes were obvious. Yeah, look at him. I mean,
not bad.
I don't know if we're semaglutiting or working.
Yeah, no, there's no days off. There's just no days off for me, Pat. When you look like this, you can't let the little things go by, so you got to keep it tight.
I understand completely. Okay, the WBA, WBO, WBC super middleweight champion is Canelo. And obviously he's looking to become the 2-time undisputed super middleweight champion if he was to win the IBF championship off of Scull this evening. Connor has a question for you on that, Large.
Yeah, Large, as a boxing junkie like you are, what are the chances of kind of one title? I feel like for casuals in boxing, it's hard to follow, all the titles that people have. Do you think there is a possibility of one title per, weight class? Is that something that would maybe help the casual fan? And do you think that is something also that will help with the just in general boxing sport when it comes to uniting all the fighters in the world?
Connor, I'm going to try to keep up with Pat with dropping names too, but I was talking with Dana a long time ago.
Oh.
And what I was talking about was what's wrong with boxing is what could be right for the UFC. Like, I think to add another belt in each one of those weight classes would give guys just more of a shot to have a strap. But what boxing did is obviously blow it out of proportion. We have way too many belts, and a lot of them just mean absolutely nothing. So I don't think we'll ever get to a point where we have one belt, but if we can get down to 2 or 3. 2 or 3 is probably as far as we can get down, because we're going to have all these different organizations who are going to be throwing their hat into the ring. But I do think that it's one on top of flawed judging. My Brooklyn accent came out there a little bit with the flawed judging. Yeah. But on top of the flawed judging, I think having too many belts is probably one of the biggest problems with boxing right now.
I thought there was no way Rolly was going to get the win last night because of what you said there about the judging. Like, legitimately. I'm like, Ryan Garcia, Times Square, Rolly's going to have to knock him out. Or Booker was actually saying they were going to have a draw.
I said it was going to be a draw.
Yeah, before the ruling came out, Booker's like, I think they're going to give him a draw because none of us believed, even though with what we saw, we all watched Rolly win that fight. They're like, you just assume that the boxing judges won't give it to Rolly over Ryan Garcia, especially on that night. So whenever Rolly's announced the win, my reaction, I'm actually sitting next to Mike Tyson, another name drop, no big deal. I have no idea how I'm sitting next to Mike Tyson. It was absolutely unbelievable. I was surprised, man, just as a casual from outside looking in, I was like, I didn't expect that. Large, I legitimately didn't. I would assume you didn't either, maybe, with the way the boxing
No. Yeah, hold on a sec. This is Harrison Ford. What's up, Harrison? I think that if they didn't, and I know I've seen some absolute robberies, and Canelo's been on the winning side of some of those robberies. That Adelaide Bird card in the Triple G fight leaps to mind automatically. So whenever I see setup fights like the one we saw last night with the Garcia-Haney fight, right? The Garcia-Haney fights to set up obviously the rematch. I always throw a little bit on the draw because that's the bailout as opposed to a robbery. Sometimes you can get away with the draw, but that one was just too lopsided. Ryan didn't do anything. And I was going to take points away from the way Raleigh would go, did you notice that the whole fight? Instead of like that. He made like a little type of, I don't know, bitchy little high-pitched thing, which bothered the shit out of me throughout the whole thing. But he dominated the fight, and I don't think you can have that many eyes on that type of event for a guy as popular as Ryan Garcia and not do the right thing with the decision. That would have burnt boxing to the ground.
Yeah, I think so. And especially and I know DAZN has obviously been around boxing a long time, and the ring is over 100 years old and everything like that.
Yep.
But with what Turkey and everybody, Dana and Nick, are trying to do with TKO, it's like a ruling like that immediately, especially with what we all saw. The first score, I think it was like a close, it was only a 3-point difference. The judges scored as this, and Tyson was like, that wasn't the score. And then the second score that was announced was like, it was a big spread. He was like, that is what the actual fight was.
That's it.
And then whenever Rolly was ruled the winner, Tyson was like, that's exactly how it should have went. I think it was exactly how the game should have went in New York City. Tonight, Canelo, obviously needle mover in boxing. Large. Feels like, Devin Haney was last night. Ryan Garcia was last night. In Riyadh today, you got Canelo. Eubank fought, obviously, 2 weeks ago. A lot of stars in boxing. A lot of needle movers in boxing right now. And I can't help but go back to Dallas Cowboys Stadium with Canelo. That guy is worldwide, it feels like, Large.
Yeah, so I'm ringside for this fight too. Again, another drop. And when he knocked out, and that fight was fought in the bubble, right? So the whole training camp was in the bubble. The media week was in the bubble also. So this is an off-balance right hand that breaks Billy Joe Saunders' orbital bone instead of a record in front of a record crowd at Dallas Stadium. So Canelo has literally fought on the biggest stages of the world. I had Conor Benn in last week, and to your point, that's fight of the year for me so far. Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr., and the setup to it with the smashing of the egg on the face. If we can get any semblance of that tonight, because I was hoping to get it last night, then it's worth the money, because we have generational fights that are possibly on the table, and we just need the fighters to follow through. Like the way that Devin Haney was nervous for the first couple of rounds, very jittery, on his bike. There wasn't a ton of action. And then Ryan, after he gets the only knockdown of the night in the second round, he got very jittery too. So that won't happen if Scull was to knock Canelo down. It's not going to happen with Canelo because he's a goddamn animal. He's going to get up and take it to him. So we might be able to see something that's fighting in a phone booth, like what we got to see with Ben versus Eubank, which was must-see TV, and then the rematch is obviously going to be must-see TV as well. And by the way, Conor Benn came to that fight to call out Ryan Garcia. Like, that's Conor Benn's reason to be over here. I mean, he just came off one of the biggest fights of his life and obviously the biggest loss of his career and his first loss. So now that's kind of shot to shit. But the way that Turkey has put these fights together, or helped put these fights together, has really turned boxing into a global platform again. So now I'm going to have a kid from Guadalajara fighting William Scull from wherever the hell he is, out in Saudi, maybe Conor Benn fighting Ryan Garcia on the surface of the fucking moon. You don't know what's going on, right? And I think that it's a very important time for boxing. And as you can tell, a guy my age doesn't get too excited without the help of a couple of chemicals, but this one's got me all bricked up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's not bad to take a couple chemicals and enjoy the state of the affairs as well. Large, we appreciate the hell out of you, man. Enjoy tonight.
Always, my man. Anytime you need me. Good to talk to you, Booker. Okay, talking to you, Pat.
Yeah, I understand. Ladies and gentlemen, Large from Barstool.
Yeah, Large.
Take a couple chemicals, help that blood flow a little bit. But like whenever you listen to Turkey talk about what their plans are, it is exciting for the sport of boxing because he talked about, the moon, but that's literally what's being chatted. I mean, they shut the city down last night.
It's a game changer. I mean, it really is. Like I said, I've been watching boxing since I was a little boy, and I've watched how it's been monopolized, and it was never really about the fighters. It's never been about that, and now it seems like it's motivated towards the fighters, and I think it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful thing at the end of the day.
How about Times Square last night? I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody really knew what to expect. I think there was some security precautions that maybe changed what original visions potentially were.
Yeah,
I think so. Sure. Yeah, numbers were being reported, like 400,000 people moseyed through the Times Square area whenever these fights were happening. I think there was over 250,000 downloads of the fight on the ring and everything like that. So it obviously had smashing success, and it was a wild environment to be a part of. Book, honestly, we were sitting on that desk, and I was just staring down Times Square, and there's a ring behind me that famous, and then Turkey's obviously there, and then the who's who basically of boxing, and Mike Tyson's just roaming around.
It's always been like I'm a fly on the wall, and I'm like, man, how did I get here? How did I get here? And that was literally one of those moments where this is history. This is history, and we was a part of it. It was huge.
Yeah, the entrances were something.
Yeah, I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
They're just different. It kind of adds to the Times Square. Like it's just different than
Batman got it. What do you think about that one?
With the Batman,
the Batmobile.
Well, the car. Yeah. It kind of looked like a young Jared King. Lawler. They're driving, and he has a Batmobile, I think. We didn't know if they went back in time. But
he did look younger.
The start of it, because it's so big, they had to back it up. Yep. And then they had traffic. And then I remember there was like, if you're listening to people that were talking about it, they're like, this has to happen by this amount of time, or this is the only time they have in Times Square, because the amount of logistics in the middle of Times Square to pull that whole thing off.
It was amazing.
And obviously, it really was. As you're like walking through it, it's like, this is absolutely absurd. And the people that were just stacked up on the other side.
That was awesome.
And they had massive, I guess they put up massive TVs for them to watch. And I think I thought, and a lot of people thought that they was going to be a lot closer. I think there was a little bit of a worry about like, how do we get, what happens if, like, there was a lot of figuring it out, but that just goes to show, like, Turkey, the Ring magazine, our Crown Prince, God bless him, obviously, they are fully invested in making big moments, in making memorable moments, in making the sport of boxing be like special and feel special. So we talked about it on the moon, but it could literally be absolutely anywhere. If they could get up there and hold a fight up there, it feels like they will want to do that.
Yeah, because it seems like, boxing's biggest issue for a while here has been you get the two stars and it's kind of the will they, won't they. They go back and forth and then the fight never really materializes. And you can say what you want about the actual boxing in the ring last night in the card, like still entertaining, but the being able to put it in Times Square, Turkey's vision to do that, like you mentioned, I assume most people who have wanted to do an event like that, you either just immediately say no because of the red tape and the logistics. It's like, hey, this is never going to get done. There's no way we're going to be able to do this. But for them to actually be able to put that on and have it go smoothly like it did last night, like that's massive moving forward.
Full chaos setting it up all day.
I would assume.
Okay, we were right in the middle of all of it. I mean, it was absolutely chaotic. But it ended up being hell of a flow, hell of a show, long fights to largest point. We were waiting for something to happen.
Nothing.
The something that happened was massive upset at the end of the night with Rolly Romero getting a big win.
Yeah, it was. But, I mean, on on another note, shout out to the fans that came out in New York City, man, because all the people out there went off without a hitch, man. The police was like everywhere, and they was just wanting autographs. They wanted to take pictures.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because
it was a cool vibe.
Because they was having so much fun, just like everybody else, man. So big shout out to New York City, man, for coming out, showing up, and showing out.
Yeah, it was a very good vibe.
It was
very positive vibe, like legitimately, like just super positive vibe. Because in the area, it was kind of tight. And there was like seats. There was only a certain amount of seats. Book and I actually didn't even have seats. So which was actually the best, might have been the best.
Kind of
move
awesome.
around.
Yeah, because we were able to move.
Yeah,
they were able to, we were in a New York City diner that was rented out right next door. So we were able to kind of stick and move and kind of experience it from all different places. But everybody was just positive. It really felt like a positive time. And the fights were long. You know, everything went 12 rounds. Everything went 5 rounds. And then obviously the final with Rolly and Garcia, I don't think anybody expected that to go the way it went. But I think as you could start to feel like there's an upset happening right here in front of our eyes. Ryan Garcia said it wasn't a normal feel. Obviously, normally you're in front of 20,000 people, 30,000 people. Yeah. You can't really block everything out. Ryan Garcia said he was hearing conversations that were happening in the front row because it was like a very intimate setting there around the box.
It was a COVID feel. It really had that feel, and you had to be focused and dialed in. And we talked about Rolly actually coming up and that look in his eye. What was he really thinking about? And he seemed like he was off a little bit, but maybe that was just him focusing in and dialing in and having to go out there and deal with that moment, something that Ryan Garcia obviously didn't do. And I tell you, from the outset, seemed like Rolly seemed like he had the master plan. He went out there and put big shout out to Rolly Romero because nobody thought he was going to do it. No. Nobody.
And he wasn't talking like he was going to do it either. He was actually feeding Ryan Garcia Haney. Like the next fight, he was in the conversation. He's like, I can't wait to see Garcia and Haney fight again. Amazing. And Garcia was like, well, after I beat his ass, I'll beat Haney. And Rolly's like, all right, if you beat up Haney, it'll be good for all. Like, Rolly in all the interviews was just so casual. And then you talk about him pulling up in the Eddie Guerrero dropped. I mean, he was just like literally just sitting there. Little do we know that guy was about to go have one of the biggest upsets in like the history of boxing or something like that. People were calling it. And last night was a celebrated boxing. It was a celebration of good vibes. It was a celebration of Times Square. Yeah. And it was a celebration of Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. The Toxic Table got a chance to check it out moments ago.
The Wolves are howling tonight.
A lot of flying punches, some low kicks. This game is... Oh, there it is.
There was a good combo.
That's the combo that Gato's been looking for all day long.
Power uppercut. Look at that. Look at that speed. Look at that tenacity.
9 lives like a cat. That's why they call him Gato.
Well, Marco Rodriguez is actually a master of the sweet science. Look at that. Look at that.
Look at you. Marco wins. This is the power of Yokogen Karate. Round 2.
Yeah, and you got the game breaker right now. Whoa. Oh, but so do I. Boom.
How'd you do that?
Boom. Break your neck. Twist high. Pad you into the ground.
Yeah, I'm bleeding out.
Punish. Cool down. Crumble.
Come on, man.
Let's go. See, you got to watch out for the
Fatal Fury. It's a hell of a game. Hell of a game.
Looked like you guys had a blast.
We did.
Yeah,
we did. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, looked like you guys had a real good time. Like,
yep, exactly. A lot of quick combos.
What was that?
That was the fist.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now is a man who would beat both of your asses in that game.
Wow.
And in real life. He's also more handsome than all of us in here, except for Booker T. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who's been in the boxing promotion business since he was a boy, actually. Chairman of Matchroom Sports, ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, Eddie.
How are you, buddy?
Good evening. Good evening.
Okay, so Eddie, we did a little virtual graph of what you did last night at 1 a.m. New York City, all the way to Saudi Arabia. Now, there's people out there that don't believe that thing should be round, but you went up there to the pole, I believe, to come all the way down to Saudi Arabia. How is the travel to Riyadh, and how are the vibes over there right now?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of it, to be honest with you. It was straight on the plane with His Excellency Michael Buffer, Terence Crawford, loads of names from the boxing world, and just literally got showered at the hotel, ready to head down to the arena for Canelo Alvarez. It's been a wild 24 hours, and obviously reflected on a crazy night last night in Times Square as well.
Okay, so how has the conversation been with you guys about what happened last night in Times Square? We just got done chit-chatting about it. The views were absurd. Obviously, we have the drone shot showcasing everything. The city of New York, the weather, although it was a little thick and hot, clear skies, felt like they couldn't ask for anything more. Long fights, there wasn't any really explosive moments other than Rolly getting the massive upset over Ryan Garcia. What was your guys' takeaway from last night's event? Shout out Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves.
I mean, yeah, just looking at your pictures there, quite unbelievable, really. I think a moment we'll never forget in terms of those memories. The fights, okay, you know, I feel like, I think I said to you guys in the studio before, this is a strange environment, you know, and these fighters have got to be really prepared for that environment. And, you know, you heard Ryan Garcia talk about it after. No point talking about it after the fact. You've got to be more professional than that, and you've got to go and deal with it. And, you know, Devin Haney was a little bit negative, but boxed well. Teofimo Lopez, I thought, boxed really well. And then, of course, Rolly with the big upset, which I think surprised a lot of people and probably put a huge dent, of course, in the Haney-Garcia rematch.
Eddie, obviously, the Haney-Garcia rematch is why I thought as a, you know, kind of a outsider in the boxing world, I just assumed that they wouldn't give him the upset. I assumed that he would have to knock out Ryan Garcia, even though he did knock him down in the second round. Rolly gets a big upset. Who knows what Haney and Garcia is in the future. Speaking of the future, Turkey, you've been in this game a long time, obviously your whole life. You're kind of born into this entire thing, boxing promotion. What are your thoughts on Turkey and what he's doing? Because obviously last week in London, massive. New York, Times Square, shut down New York, Times Square, just shut down the city for fighting. And now you guys are in Riyadh with Canelo Alvarez, biggest needle mover on earth right now. What are your thoughts on what's happening in boxing right now with Turkey?
I mean, I don't see how it can be anything but positive. You know, I mean, I like working with a guy. I mean, he's crazy. His ideas are outlandish, but there's a method to the madness. And what he's doing is really changing the game. Boxing's hotter than it's ever been right now. And look at what's happening in the course of 24 hours. You've got the undisputed world championship tonight, the biggest star in the sport, Canelo Alvarez, fighting over here in Riyadh. Last night you saw something incredible. 65,000 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last week. It's just week on week. And you know, we're enjoying the ride, the buzz. I think everybody in boxing's enjoying the benefits that Saudi Arabia's investment is bringing to the sport. But it's not just like, oh, let's throw some money at it. This is someone that is very passionate about the sport of boxing and actually sees the bigger picture. I mean, you see the Fatal Fury stuff, the video game stuff, the promo stuff. That's hitting completely new audiences. You know, you had KSI and Speed last night. And some of the traditional boxing fans might go, oh, you know, what do we want to watch? KSI and Speed, you'd have a play video game for a couple of minutes. It's part of the bigger picture. We're bringing in a fresh approach, a new audience, and it's really working. Boxing, you know, hotter than it's ever been before.
4 out of the top 5 trends on X last night came from Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves, Times Square. The people were talking. Obviously, boxing does that. I think there's a lot of boxing people that are probably pissed that I'm a part of this, but I am one of the newer fans. Like, I am very lucky to be a part of the ride as well. Like, even the invitation being extended, like, hey, do you want to kind of come learn about our world? I'm thankful. And I'm also thankful for how kind you have been to me. I'm trying to learn as much as possible, and I'm lucky to be alongside Booker T, who has a question for you, Eddie Hearn.
Hey, outside of Canelo versus Scull, because everybody's talking about that, what should we really be looking for? Who should we be really be looking for as far as somebody getting some light shine on them tonight?
I mean, you've got a great card tonight on DAZN. You've got, obviously, Canelo against Scull, but you've also got the rematch between Jaime Munguia and Bruno Serras. So Bruno Serras is a Frenchman. They had a big homecoming for Jaime Munguia, who's a big Mexican star, and the Frenchman went to Mexico and knocked him out in his backyard. So tonight they're going to run it back. Jaime Munguia is a favourite, I think, to get that win. And then beneath that, look out for the big boys as well. Martin Bakole from the Congo, who weighed in at ever-ready 299.9 pounds.
We like big meat, Eddie. No bread.
Here we go. He's fighting F.A. Ajagba, who's a big heavyweight as well. This is going to be a really, really interesting matchup. Bakole is huge. He's a very talented heavyweight. Can gas a little bit, as you'd expect, coming in at that kind of weight. And a big fight for Ajagba as well. So Badou Jack also fighting for the Cruiserweight Championship of the world. But a really good night of boxing, of course, topped by Canelo Alvarez, the biggest star in the sport. 6 a.m. ring walks in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So just to let you know now, the time in Saudi Arabia is coming up to 20 to 1 in the morning. We're about to leave the hotel. The show kicks off at 1 a.m. and the Mexican Great will be in the ring at 6 a.m. here so that they can get it back for prime time in the U.S.
Okay, so they're doing that not only prime time in U.S., prime time in Mexico as well, right? That feels like a smart move, although it's probably not as great over in Saudi Arabia, but that's why the decision was made, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, it's one thing bringing Canelo Alvarez outside of America and Mexico for Cinco de Mayo weekend, but you've really got to do it on the time zone. And, you know, he does huge pay-per-view business. Obviously, the numbers are going to be really big on DAZN tonight, and they were last night as well through that spectacle. So, yeah, like I said, probably not ideal for the live gate in Saudi, but, you know, going to be prime time for everybody back home in the US.
Consummate promoter. Cinco de Mayo weekend. Didn't even. Should have. That's on us.
Yeah.
Love Cinco de Mayo. One of the greatest holidays out there. Legitimately, one of the greatest holidays out there. We had Times Square last night, and we had a visual shot of Riyadh. I don't know if it was this morning or maybe the other day. I had no idea the Riyadh Boulevard and everything that they're building over there.
Oh,
I had no idea. Yeah, Eddie, how many times have you been over there? A lot now at this point, I assume. Because
I mean, couple of dozen times. First came here in 2019 to do the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz. I can't tell you how much the place has changed. I mean, it is a stunning place, amazing weather, great hospitality. You're seeing there, that's a clip of Boulevard City and Boulevard World, which is all the different countries around the world in like different kind of stations for food, entertainment. You know, you've got every major sport now coming into Saudi Arabia, all the big music acts, the artists. It's thriving here, and the younger generation are really absorbing and taking up the sport as well, which is great to see.
Yeah, and I think boxing is a big part of it. You know, as is WWE and entertainment and video games, it's like there's something happening very special in Saudi Arabia while we are still alive, and we're lucky kind of to be here. Enjoy the morning over there, Eddie. We appreciate the hell out of your time.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
You're the man, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Hearn. Okay, let's send it back over to Saudi Arabia with two lads from DAZN that want to give us a little bit of an inside info on what we should be looking at. This is Todd Grisham and Daniel Jacobs.
Thanks, Pat. It's Cinco de Mayo Saudi style. Todd Grisham here alongside the former middleweight champion of the world, Daniel Jacobs. You fought Canelo Alvarez back in 2019. Not that I need to tell you that. You only lost by 1 round, according to 2 judges. Why were you able to have such success against him?
Well, I was able to have success because of my mindset, which was the ultimate thing that I needed preparing for Canelo. He's a big world-class fighter, skills, everything that he does inside the ring with his Mexican-style boxing breaks fighters in that ring. Number 1, I knew I could win. Number 2, it was the skill set. I switched orthodox. I switched southpaw. I grappled. I moved. I did everything necessary to be competitive, to give my all and leave nothing in the ring that night.
Yeah, well, Canelo Alvarez will be facing William Scull, a relative unknown. Canelo Alvarez, about a 30-1 favorite. You've done the research. How can William Scull beat Canelo Alvarez?
It's gonna take everything within him. We know this is a sport of boxing, anything can happen, so you have to be cautious to that. Scull is a very decent fighter, but he's going to have to be exceptional tonight against a guy like Canelo Alvarez.
Well, you know, Canelo's supposed to be fighting against Terence Crawford later this year, the worst-kept secret in boxing. But we saw last night, Ryan Garcia couldn't get the job done. He had a fight against Devin Haney. What do you expect from Canelo tonight here in Saudi Arabia?
I expect Canelo to be Canelo. Throughout the last couple of years, I think, for me, my personal self, looking at Canelo being in the ring with him, I wanted to see signs of aging, signs of degrading and, you know, lessening. But Canelo continues to be Canelo. He's getting better and better each time. Different styles, he poses a different threat. He can come and do so many different things in the ring, and that's why I'm a Canelo fan. And ultimately, I'm happy that I got a chance to fight against world champions such as Canelo.
Yeah, now Canelo's got that old man strength too, so watch out. 5 straight fights, by the way, for Canelo to knock down his opponent, but he did get the stoppage. We'll see if he can do it tonight against William Scull, live on DAZN. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Daniel. As we wrap up here, we'd be smart to go to one half of the Hammer Don Cowboys sports betting aficionado. And what props or bets we need to look at tonight, Tone Diggs?
Yeah, this was a super fun card to go through. All fights, you could find something in every single one of them. We'll start with the Canelo and William Scull fight. Both of these fighters, I think it was kind of surprising to me when I was looking at it, that Canelo, 5 straight fights that has gone the distance. And also for William Scull, 5 straight fights that has gone the distance. You see that minus 3,500 right there for Alvarez. That's too big of a number to bet on by itself, so you got to find something. So with those guys going the distance, each of them, the last 5 fights. Also, it was unanimous decision for both of those guys the last 5 fights. And we talked about the Terrence Crawford fight. Will Canelo do something to put that on jeopardy? Probably not. So we might just toy with William Scull all night long. So that's why I'm taking the over 9.5 rounds. I'm taking the over 10.5 rounds. I'm taking the fight to go to the distance. And I'm also taking, Canelo to easily win by unanimous decision at plus 180 there.
I like that. Minus 130, minus 110 going to be the best odds you're going to get for, fight decision. Over 10.5 rounds. If it's anything like what we watched last night, this is going to go the distance. This is going to go the distance. But maybe Canelo... Maybe Scull with the reach is able to go. I like that. What other fights should we be looking at for props, Tone?
Let's talk about the big boy fight. Okay, let's talk about the Bakoli and the Ajagba fight. I am going with the under 8.5 rounds, minus 140 in this fight. Bakoli's last 4 fights, not one has made it past the 5th round. He has 16 knockouts in 23 fights. Ajagba has 14 knockouts in 21 fights. I don't think there's any chance this gets past 8.5, probably ending in a knockout at some point.
No bread.
No water. Just me.
All right, what other props should we be looking at, Tone?
Let's talk about the Munguia and the Saras fight, the rematch that was talked about a lot today. Obviously, Munguia gets embarrassed in his home country of Mexico in his last fight. Booker was talking about it. He was kind of controlling that fight, and then he got a little loose. I think he tightens it. I think it's a revenge fight. I got Munguia winning by knockout, TKO, or DQ minus 175.
Not going to distance. Munguia gets his get back, and then we'll have a trilogy with Saras. Thank you so much for that, Tone. Hopefully that'll be a fruitful venture if you're gambling on these fights tonight. And as we send it over to Saudi Arabia, we can't help but ask Booker T, final thoughts as we look ahead to this card.
Hey, man, I'm ready for history. Are we going to see it? Will Canelo Alvarez be the first man to become the 2-time undisputed middleweight El Gran Campeón? Oh, yes, man.
In a toxic table, Boston Connor, Todd Schmidt, your thoughts as we send it over to Riyadh?
Just looking forward to greatness. Anytime you get someone like Canelo fighting, it's usually just twice a year now, so you got to enjoy it when you got it.
Yeah, great card. Going to enjoy all the fights and then having it capped off by hopefully a Canelo knockout. That'd be great.
Shout out to Eddie Hearn. Shout out to Large from Barstool. Shout out to all of you. And shout out to Turkey for letting us be a part of all of this. Tonight should be epic, and that event starts right now. Shout out Riyadh season.